Okay, dear students, good morning. Today, inshallah, we will continue. If you remember in the previous videos, we talked about definition of poetry. Today, we will talk about early English literature, the beginning of the Renaissance, and we will now focus on the Anglo Saxon traditions from the 6th century up to the 11th century, that is 1066. So we will do in this video the background of that era or age, and then we will talk about Beowulf as a heroic poem or an epic. Okay, اللي هي زي ما حكينا ملحمة. Okay, so let's start now. So we will talk about the Anglo-Saxon and the background for that age. The British history, culture and literature was shaped by a series of invaders. Invaders, here we mean the people who attack a country and come to live in it, rule it and live in it, with varying cultures and languages. So the British history is a mixture of cultures. Those cultures came mainly from Europe, of course, from nearby countries in Europe that, or tribes اللي قبائل that invaded Britain. Those invaders were the Celtic. In some sources you will read them Celtic, but the most common one is Celtic. The Celtic, and they are speaking Gaelic, Gaelia, inhabited the island before Romance. إذا الكلتيك جماعات الكلتيك اجتاحت الجزر البريطانية واستقرت فيها قبل الرومانيين. Of course, the Celtic are considered as people with rich civilization, and they added a lot to the country at that time. Okay, after that we have the Romans. So the Celtic, the Romans coming after them, they were speaking Latin, and they invaded Britain in 55 BC, before the Christ. They called the Celts race as Britanni, and the country Britannia. Okay, and we have also the Scots. The Scots settled in the north of the island and called it Scotland, and you know that Scotland still exists until now. The Germans, coming from Germany, okay, they formed the Jutes, Angles and Saxons. They were called the Anglo Saxons. إذن في عندي Celts, okay, we have the Celts, okay, and we have the Romans, the Scots, and the Germans. The Germans are the ones that are called Anglo-Saxons, okay, and they were speaking German. They had beaten or beat Picts and the Scots and took over the land completely, okay, fine. So let's look at the roads taken to Britain. As you can see, the invaders came from this area, okay, and invaded the British Islands, okay. So if you look here, the Angles are more, okay. We have 3 lines for their invasion. That's why they managed to rule the whole country, while the Saxons came from this area and settled in the northwest of the country. The Jutes, they came and settled in the, if we say this is the south, this is the north, okay, sorry. So this is the north, this is the south, this is the east and the west. So they settled here in the south, okay, fine. So those are the invaders. So the first point that you need to know, who are the invaders that formed the British history? Those were the Celts, those were the Romans, the Scots, the Germans, okay. So here you can go back and look at them. Okay, now the Angles, we said Anglo-Saxon. So the Angles gave their name to the land England, and here we have England. If you remember, the Celts, The Celts were called Britanni. إذن هي إجت التسمية بريطانيا from the Celts. While Angles came from the Anglo Saxons and they gave the name England. The Anglo Saxon language was Latin plus German. It is what is called today, at that time Old English. So Old English wasn't the modern English that we know. It was Latin and German. That's why you would find it difficult to understand a poem written in Old English. Okay, fine. The Anglo-Saxon worshipped Norse gods. So they worshipped Norse gods, okay, Norwegian, Norse, Norwegian or Scandinavian gods. Okay, كانت عندهم آلهة نرويجية، يعني عدد من الآلهة طبعا عندهم أكثر من إله. Converted to Christianity in 597 AD with Saint Augustine. okay, إذا تحولوا دخلوا أو اعتنقوا المسيحية في العام 597 بعد الميلاد مع القديس أوغسطين. Okay, however, retained strong hold on their pagan customs and beliefs. إذن they were at the beginning pagan. Pagan معناها إنهم without religion زي الجاهلية عنا. So though they converted to Christianity, still they hold strong to their pagan customs and beliefs. The marriage between Christianity and their pagan superstitions colored the Anglo-Saxon literature. And this is a very common feature of the Anglo-Saxon literature, in which when you read the poem, you see elements of Christianity, you see elements of paganism. Okay, paganism اللي هي زي ما حكينا يعني عدم الإيمان بوجود زي الجاهلية عنا عصر الجاهلية. Okay, so they had a well-organized society consisting of two classes, the ruling class and the serving class. The king is the absolute ruler. He can give orders to kill anybody or to devote money or give money to anybody. Okay, so he was the absolute ruler. No one could actually interfere in his authorities. He is the top authority, the higher authority, and nobody can object. Decisions of king made based on advice of his council of wise men. So there was a council for the king, and this council could actually inform him of his decisions, but the final decision is for the king. Their society centered on the Mead Hall, where bards sang stories of brave heroes and their deeds. So the main area or the main building in the country was called Mead Hall. Okay, and in this hall you would see bards. Bards are poets, but those poets, when they tell or singers, when they want to tell a story, they actually sing this story. It's like a song. Okay, and people usually came to those bards, to those halls, in order to listen to the bards. The bards, the subject of the bards are brave heroes and their deeds. إذن المكان المركزي كان في العصر هذا الملك، أي ملك طبعا في عهد الأنجلو ساكسون، هو القاعة الملكية. في القاعة هذه في عندي رواه أو صحيح رواه أو حكواتي يقول القصة ولكن بطريقة غنائية، يعني على وكأنه بيغنيها، يعني بيكونوا يعزفوا على آلة بسيطة ويحكي القصة بلحن، فبتظهر وكأنها قصة غنائية. طبعا موضوع القصص هذه كانت الأبطال تبعين الدولة، طبعا قادة الجيش وأفعالهم الرائعة والشجاعة. طيب, Beowulf is the only length Old English epic in existence. طبعا Beowulf, when we talk about Old English, you can't find anything but Beowulf, because it was well known, it was a long epic, and it was sung in different Mead Halls. Okay, so Beowulf is the name of our hero. Okay, the name of our hero. So let's come to Beowulf. Beowulf is the first hero we know about in Old English. So what is the story of Beowulf? He is a mythological or legendary figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or ability. So he is a hero, but not a normal type of hero. He was like a supernatural hero who got great ability and great strength, great courage, and also he was from, if you remember in the previous lesson when I talked about being the hero has the royal origins. He is of noble origin. إذن هو عشان يكون بطل في الأصل إنه هو أصوله ملكية، أصوله أصول نبيلة، مش أي واحد, not a common person who comes and does a great deed and then we say he is a hero. No, the hero is just this type of people. Okay. Now, an illustrious warrior, one that shows great courage. So he is a warrior. Warrior is a fighter, and he shows great courage as in a rescue. He is a person admired for achievements and qualities. So the hero is a mythological figure. He is from noble origin. He is a fighter or a warrior with great courage. Okay, and he is a person admired for achievements and qualities. So this is the definition of the hero in Old English. It's important that you keep this in your mind, because later in modern English you would find that this image of the hero has completely changed. So it's not it will not always be just someone who comes from a noble origin. Okay, fine. Let's come now to brief story background. Let's tell the story. What is the story of Beowulf? Around 780, this is when the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes battled the Vikings to take over England. As a result, the best known hero in the land emerged, Beowulf. إذن England at that time witnessed war, okay, strong war between the tribes trying to rule. The Viking, يمكن بتسمعوا كتير عن أبطال الفايكنج. They were strong warriors, and to defend England emerged Beowulf as a hero. Beowulf as a hero. So Beowulf, he was from the Anglo Saxons, and he was fighting with the Anglo Saxon tribes and the Jutes against the Vikings. Okay, fine. So although Beowulf, the character, was fictitious, the story is based on historical people and made quite a splash in English. Okay, so you should remember now that Beowulf was a real character, but later when they made it a story, they are added those actually fictitious elements اللي هي العناصر القصص والخيال. Okay, لكن هو يعني based on a real story. So there was a hero whose name was Beowulf. He was of a great noble origins. He was courageous. He fought in the war and achieved great things. So the people started to imagine him as a fictitious, as a mythological, actually, as a mythological and legendary character. يعني الناس من كتر ما مجدوه لأعماله العظيمة أصبح بالنسبة لهم وكأنه أسطورة, a legend. Okay. For over 200 years, Beowulf was told over and over again. Beowulf here, I'm talking about the poem, the epic, passed down through the oral tradition, word of mouth by the storytellers or the scopes. Of course, at that time, writing wasn't common in England, so the story of Beowulf, the epic that was written about Beowulf, was told orally. Okay, so from one person to another. Okay, especially the storytellers. Beowulf was the first text written in Old English, our language today. Okay, sometime before 1000 AD, two unknown scribes wrote down the story of Beowulf in Old English. إذا في البداية Beowulf كانت orally يتم تناقلها. Okay, so people would tell it orally, but later two people or two writers wrote Beowulf in Old English. Okay, only one copy of Beowulf has survived. Okay, what is important? It is the oldest surviving epic in British literature or the English language. And again, remind you that when we say epic, we mean a long narrative poem. So this is what you need to know here, is that Beowulf is based on a real story. It's of a hero. This hero is of noble origins. He was courageous, a warrior, fought in the war and achieved great things. Okay, the story of this warrior was told orally, but then it was written down in an epic form. The epic is a long narrative poem. Okay, fine. So let's look now the video on Beowulf. We will see the video. It's only, you can see it. I don't know if we can see it now. I will try. In this video, we will watch the story. Okay, so yeah, I hope it will appear. If it doesn't, you can still watch it later, inshallah. So this is the plot summary.
Opens with the history of the great Danish warrior kings. It introduces Hrothgar, a great king who for the last 12 years has suffered under frequent pillages at the hands of an evil monster named Grendel. During the rising action, Beowulf...
Then we start with King Hrothgar, and if you noticed, the Grendel is the monster which attacked the country at that time. Okay,
himself comes to the rescue of Hrothgar in repayment for saving his father many years ago. He tells Hrothgar of his great feats and vows to defeat the monster Grendel. Beowulf lays down his armor and sword so that he is Grendel's equal. In a great battle, Beowulf tears Grendel's arm from his body. Grendel retreats home and dies. To avenge her son's death, Grendel's mother kills one of Hrothgar's elders, taking Grendel's arm. During the explosive climax, Beowulf follows her to her lair to fight her. His sword is ineffective. He grabs a magic sword off the wall and slices off her head. He finds Grendel's corpse and takes his head as a trophy. The blade of the sword melts away, and he brings Grendel's head and the hilt of the sword to Hrothgar. Hrothgar showers him in gifts, and he returns to the Geats, where he is proclaimed a hero. During Beowulf's falling action, after the fall of the two kings, Beowulf receives the crown. For 50 years, he maintains relative peace until a runaway slave sneaks into a dragon's lair and steals a golden goblet. Infuriated, the dragon torments Beowulf's lands. Beowulf brings 11 men to battle the beast, but all but one, Wiglaf, flee upon seeing the horrible dragon. Beowulf and Wiglaf fight the dragon, killing it, but not before Beowulf is fatally injured. As he dies, Beowulf requests to see the treasure the dragon kept, a bounty he is proud to be leaving for his people. During the resolution, Beowulf dies a hero, and Wiglaf brings his body back to his Geat people. Wiglaf predicts the invasions that are going to come once word spreads that their king is dead. Beowulf did not leave an heir, which will likely seal the Geats' fate. They hold a great funeral for the hero Beowulf and burn his treasure with his body.
Okay, so now let's go back to our presentation. So this is the story of Beowulf. I hope that you noticed that it consisted of two parts. The first part is fighting the Grendel, killing the Grendel and its mother. This is a monster. The second part is fighting the dragon, which used to burn the fields and kill the people. But the problem is that before killing the dragon managed to hurt Beowulf, and that injury was fatal. Fatal, it means deadly, or it led to his death. So Beowulf died at the end as a hero. Okay, fine. So let's come to the characteristics of the epic poem. In general, the epic poem elements, and they are applied to Beowulf. The characteristics is that the hero is of high rank or noble birth. I think we mentioned that. The hero embodies ideas of society, performs superhuman deeds, as you've seen in Beowulf. Actions determine fate of a nation. Okay, so for Beowulf at the beginning, or from the beginning, he fought, and his actions saved the nation. Vast setting. Okay, so you would find that the setting is the time and space, the time and the place of the epic. So it is very wide. So we have the story, for example, of Beowulf. It starts from Hrothgar, the king, and then the arrival of the Grendel, the arrival of Beowulf, killing it, and then the two kings that came and then died, and then Beowulf became a king, and then comes the story of the dragon. So this is a very long period, and they move from one place to another in order to fight those monsters. Okay, addresses universal themes of courage, of belonging to your country, of fighting for the people that you love, and so on. Action begins in medias res, in the middle. So we don't know the story before the arrival of the Grendel, or how the Grendel came. يعني احنا مش عارفين القصة من وين بدأت. القصة بدأت معنا من وسط الأحداث, from the idea that the Grendel is attacking the country. So the beginnings of that is not known. We come to the middle and continue with the story. هيك عادة الملاحم عندهم بتبدأ من قلب الحدث وبتنطلق. مقدمات الحدث لا تظهر أمامنا. Characters speak in long formal speeches, yes, because Old English is very formal, and in those epics we see supernatural beings. وارجعوا للأوديسا, ملحمة الأوديسا مشهورة جدا كمان. It's full of monsters and supernatural beings, and it reflects timeless values. Timeless values اللي زي ما حكينا courage and honor, الشجاعة والشرف. These are timeless values. Whenever you live, okay, you still have people admire those values. Okay, fine. Now, more on Beowulf. Despite Beowulf's Christian elements, it is still considered a pagan tale. Pagan, one who has, of course, no religion. Okay. Let's look at the important literary elements in Beowulf. It is written in alliterative verse. تتذكروا alliteration شرحناها in the previous video. Okay, so with the alliteration we mean repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of successive words or a phrase. For example, Tennessee Titans. So the ta and the ta here, they are alliterative. Tangoed to a touchdown. طلع Tennessee Titans. Tangoed to a touchdown. طلع ta, 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 ta. Okay. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickles. فتكرار الpa sound at the beginning of each word gives music to the line. Okay. This is called الجناس إذا بتتذكروا. Sally sold salads at Subway. فهذه جملة عادية طبعا مش من شعر. Okay, sa. So this is alliterative or alliteration. Okay, sorry. Fine. The lines of the poem, then the first feature is that it is written in alliterative verse. We see what mean by alliteration. The second point, that the lines of the poem are divided into two half lines with a caesura or a break in the middle. إذا وكأنه معمول الشطر الأول، شطر البيت المقدمة، والعجز اللي هو الجزء الثاني، الشطر الثاني. إذا كل بيت شعري كان ينكتب عندهم من شطرين، شبيه باللغة العربية زمان عنا، بس بعد هيك لا. Okay, so the lines of the poem are divided into two half lines with a caesura or a break in the middle. Caesura هي نفسها break in the middle. Each half line is a hemistich, okay, اللي هو كل شطر، الشطر بنسميه hemistich, and contains two stressed words or syllables as well as other syllables without stress. إذا في عندي stressed and unstressed syllables. Important literary elements also for the poetic needs of alliteration. Words are varied. اوكي طبعا عشان انا اخلق الجناس اللي بدي اياه ما بينفع استخدم الكلمات زي ما هي، لازم اغير الكلمات. in this way you will use metaphors، كناية، حنستخدم استعارات وكنايات عشان نخلق الجناس والصوت والنغمة اللي انا بدي اياها. So look here, a compound word or phrase that substitutes, takes the place of a specific noun, adds imagery to writing. حتى الرمزية، يعني احنا بنعرف الكناية والاستعارة والتشبيه كلها اللي هي العناصر الرمزية. For example, instead of saying sun you say sky candle. Instead of saying blood you say battle dew. تخيلوا battle dew اللي هو الندى، ندى المعركة. بدل ما أحكي الدماء أحكي ندى المعركة. ocean بدل ما نحكي ocean we can say whale road. فتخيلوا كيف الميتافور here. The sun is embodied or perceived as sky candle. يعني الشمس بدل ما أحكي الشمس أضاءت الشمس أحكي أضاءت شمعة السماء. Okay, ف these are metaphors in which you use different words to express the normal word. Another feature is that no women except Hrothgar's queen Wilhithue and Grendel's mother participated in the events of the story, of course, because in Old English women had no status. They were just like properties, like a chair, a table, anything in the house. So they had no real presentation in the Old English. So that's why in the epic of Beowulf we see just two women, two figures of women, and those were actually secondary figures also, not men. The poem abounds with boasting, which seems to be one way of communication, long speeches of celebration, anticipating events and digressions into history and genealogy. Okay, so the poem, as you can see, it talks about boasting. Boasting يعني الفخر, being proud of the great deeds of the heroes at that time, and this is expressed in long speeches, and it shows the celebration of victory, and also it shows you the events of the end of the whole story. As you remember with Beowulf, we see how he came and became a hero. He fought, he was given all gifts because the king showered him with gifts. He became after that a king, and later in the end he actually died because of his fatal injury. So the poem is a long story of all those elements of pride, celebration, and at the end death. Okay, fine. I think that's the end of this part. Let me see. Okay, so I will stop now for this part of the Anglo-Saxon tradition in which we talked about Beowulf. Okay, we saw that Beowulf is of noble origins. He was a hero, a warrior who achieved great things for the country. People celebrated his heroism, his courage. He managed to kill the Grendel at the beginning, and then he became the king of the country. Beowulf after that had to fight a dragon. He took men with him, about 10 men. All of them they ran away, they escaped, okay, except one man. He continued to fight with him. Beowulf managed to kill the dragon, but unfortunately that resulted in his death also. So those were the features of his epic. His story was told orally, but then it was around 1000. It was written down in Old English. Thank you very much, and see you in our next video.